Babylon, i.e. the Neo-Babylonian Empire, was the world power of its time, reigning from 626 to 539 BC. It emerged under the leadership of Nabopolassar, who founded the empire and reached the zenith of its power under his son Nebuchadnezzar II. Neo-Babylonia was a prominent political and cultural figure in the Near East. As prophesied by Daniel, Babylon fell. It fell because of its idolatry, because of its military pride, because of its covetousness. What can the nations learn from Babylon? I want us to look at 3 ways Babylon failed and how we can learn from that. Number 1, Babylon failed to recognize that that Jehovah is the deity of the nations. Babylon trusted in idolatry. They worshiped gods such as Tammuz, Ishtar, Abu, and Marduk, and just to name a few. Marduk was their chief god. He was the national god of Babylon, looked to as their creator, and temples were erected and able to worship this man, this god, false god. Whenever we look at the world today, idolatry is not extinct. We look to India, where the prominent religion is Hinduism, and gods like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, to name a few, are worshipped. We look to Thailand in Buddhism. Buddha is revered as their god, and they also incorporate other Hindu influences, religious practices. Many people worship local spirits and deities. Look to Nepal, where Hinduism and Buddhism reign. There are false gods worshipped there, and temple worship honoring these false gods. We look to America. Colossians 3:5 describes covetousness as idolatry. There are many Americans who are covetous, who are idolizing wealth and materialism. So what can the nations learn from Babylon's idolatry? What can these idolatrous nations today learn from Babylon's idolatry? Babylon fell because of its idolatry. Nations need to learn that Jehovah is the one true God. Nations can try to establish a national God or worship other false gods, but Jehovah is the one true God, ruler and king of all nations. Psalm 22:28 in the American Standard reads, "For the kingdom is Jehovah's, and he is the ruler of the nations." Jeremiah 10:10 in the American Standard, "But Jehovah is the true God. He is the living God and everlasting King." Nations must learn from Babylon's mistake and repent of idolatry. Babylon fell because of its wicked practices of idolatry, and if nations today do not repent of idolatry, there will be consequences, as sin does not go unpunished. Nations must trust Jehovah as the one true God and remove idols from their land. Number 2, Babylon failed to recognize Jehovah as the security of their nation. Babylon trusted in their military strength. They had 150,000 soldiers. They had chariots and horses which were like modern-day tanks. The city of Babylon itself was heavily fortified. The top of the walls were so wide that chariots could ride on top of them. Herodotus claimed that the walls were 80 feet thick and 320 feet high. Militarily, Babylon could be compared to a modern-day Saudi Arabia or Iran. Babylon was a strong regional power with an advanced land army. Babylon was militarily proud. Nebuchadnezzar was proud, and God humbled him until he knew that the Most High ruled in the kingdoms of men. Daniel 5:20 through 21. His grandson was prideful and did not humble himself, even though he knew what had happened to his grandfather. And Babylon fell because of pride, Daniel 5:30 through 31. And its military might could stand no chance against the will and dominion of God, because the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, Daniel 4:17. So what can the nations learn from Babylon's military pride? Babylon was militarily strong, however, that could not save them. That was not where their salvation was. Babylon was divided amongst the Medes and the Persians, Daniel 5:28, and fell swiftly, Daniel 5:30 through 31. We look at nations today such as modern-day Russia, who in February 24, 2022, it had invaded the Ukraine. They were estimating that this invasion was going to be swift, that there was going to be a rapid regime change in as little as 48 to 72 hours. But their military pride was soon revealed as folly. They trusted in themselves and they thought, okay, we are dominant. But they were shown that that was not true. So no nation is simply secure because of its military might. No nation. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. Psalm 27. A strong military does not secure a nation. Jehovah alone is a nation's security, and nations must turn to him as their security. Number 3, Babylon failed to recognize that Jehovah is the prosperity of nations. Babylon trusted in its military, or its commercial power and its wealth. It gained vast wealth from conquest, taxation, agriculture, trade, and commerce. Think about Babylon's location right there on the Fertile Crescent, a prime location for gaining wealth. Babylon was an economic powerhouse in the ancient world. Its GDP would be equivalent to 1 to 2 trillion US dollars, which would make it on par with modern nations such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Now, material prosperity itself is not wrong. Babylon's sin was covetousness and trusting in their wealth and their prosperity instead of Jehovah. Jeremiah 51:13. So what can the nations learn from Babylon's covetousness? Covetousness led to Babylon's demise. Jeremiah 51:13. O thou, referring to Babylon, that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Babylon failed to repent of covetousness, leading to its demise. In Colossians 3:5, covetousness comes from the Greek word pilonexia, which can also be translated as greediness. Covetousness and greed are to be mortified with the old man of sin, Colossians 3:5. And the wrath of God will come upon those who are covetous, Colossians 3:6. Covetous nations must repent and turn and trust in Jehovah as their prosperity. So this morning, we've looked at 3 points. What can the nations learn from Babylon? What Babylon failed to recognize: that Jehovah is the deity of the nations, Jehovah is the security of the nations, and Jehovah is the prosperity of the nations. Any nation that fails to recognize these 3 things will surely face demise. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Proverbs 14:34.
Let's go to work.